So it looks like we're live.
Okay.
Just going to check that because I just got a message saying we are live and then it's saying it's waiting to go live. So I'll just setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. It's weird how it does it now. It doesn't tell you. Oh yeah, it looks like we are live. That's great. Welcome everybody. Oh, where is it? Where's the broadcast gone?
I think we're sharing.
Oh, yeah, it's here, right. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for showing up to this broadcast. And we are joined today by the lovely Jason Reynolds. And so we're just going to give everyone like 5 minutes to jump on the call. So if you could share this video, that would be really, really appreciated. Jason is a really, really amazing brother from Australia, and he has a lot of wisdom to share, particularly about the situation in Australia. And I've had a brief chat with Jason and his partner, and they've got really powerful tools to share with all of us to help us through this COVID situation. And so we really want to try and get as many people on this call as possible. So please can you start watch parties? Please can you share this video? I'm now just going to go ahead and start a watch party in the event is happening group. And yeah, let's do this. So in fact, I'm going to start a watch party on my group. So if you actually go to your page, Jason.
Yeah.
So I'm going to.
Yeah, it's happening now. Yeah.
Are you tagged?
I've just shared it to my page.
Oh, well done. Brilliant. That's wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to also start a watch party on my page as well. So we'll have the video going and a watch party. That's absolutely amazing. So, right.
Yeah, it's all worked.
Just going to make sure all these volumes are down. That's that one. That's that watch party. Right, that's absolutely amazing. So let's just see how many people we've got on the call so far. We've got 109 people. That's a good enough number to start, I reckon. So let's just pull Jason back up here. Thank you everybody for sharing this video. It's yeah, it's going to be a really important message because we all know that it is basically Australia's on our minds at the moment. So welcome, Jason. So where are you in the world?
I'm in excuse me, I'm in the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, so north of Australia, northern part of Australia.
That's great. And could you just share with all our listeners like what you do, like, you know, what your role is, what you're up to at the moment?
Yeah, I have an organisation called the Quantum Movement, and basically what we're about is personal governance, and it's about people being able to take an absolute level of responsibility in their life to create change. So it's moving beyond the ideas of blame. It's moving beyond the ideas of what people have done to me or my past. It's about completely engaging in this moment. It's moving beyond philosophies or needing to fall into the idea of what ancient philosophies were, but being able to see your own authority to exist in this moment. But about developing also through that a deep level of discernment.
Mm-hmm. And what's your role within this whole sort of like COVID thing? Because obviously, like I'm doing all these meetings with everyone, and the pertinent issue is what is going on with COVID. And so can you just share with our listeners some tools that that you're working with, or how you're particularly linking in with what is going on with the global narrative at the moment?
For sure. I mean, for me, a big focus in this, Jen, has been looking at the space beyond this, rather than getting caught up in opposition to what people are doing or not doing, not looking at whether they agree with what is happening or not, but it's moving out of that particular place and starting to look at what they can create beyond that. I think there's a there's some great movements that are being encouraged to rise up and start to create a new voice. And it's a time, what I'm observing, of great purging that's going on for many people. And it's that type of purging that I think more importantly we need to understand, because it's a natural process that we're all going through, and to be able to engage in that particular purging and understand how we move through that is where we move away from our opposition to what's going on, but start to create something where people can move into beyond it. I think it's, for me, it's about enabling people with how to hold space, not just for themselves, but for those around them, and how to actually, I suppose, not sit in a state of fear and hoping and wishing, but starting to actualize themselves in a way that is definitive, not through an idea of hope, but through a deliberate action that they can take in each and every moment.
Mm-hmm. So what have you observed about your fellow Australian brothers and sisters with regards to what's happening on this sort of global Great Awakening?
Look, there's a lot of talk about, especially Melbourne, how absent they may be to what is going on around them, and how submissive they may have become, and how much we've sat in a space for such a long time in this country of being the lucky country, where we very much value, especially Melbourne. I grew up in Melbourne for 20 years, and Melbourne's very much driven by sport. It's very much driven by, I suppose, how we look, the status that we hold. It's very much about entertainment through restaurants and culture in that particular way. And I believe Melbourne itself, it shocked me how complacent and compliant people are being, and are very much towing the line is in not wanting to step out of favour. But I see that changing quite significantly over the last couple of weeks, where people are not looking to change it, but they're just getting pissed off. They're just starting to get angry, but they're not looking for reasons beyond just being angry or frustrated because they're locked up. They're not going deeper or beyond the very nature of this. So that's my concern for Melbourne at this particular point in time, is they're looking again still just to fix a problem. And I think for all of us internationally, like, Melbourne's a real key aspect of this whole unfolding moving forward. But the fear I have is that we just fix this problem. And I think that's why we've got into this place this situation in the first place, that we've decided it throughout our life through habits to fix the situation that we're experiencing, rather than actually create something different. I believe we need to get to a point of recognizing we invited this situation. We created this situation. And if we start sitting there in opposition and looking at what they did and what they've created, rather than understanding the deep level of organisation that's gone into the manipulation of a group of people, and we consistently try to, let's just say in Melbourne, remove the figurehead that's currently running the show down there. There's nothing that's going to allow someone else to come into that particular space and not be corrupted if the individuals and the people are still allowing themselves to be corrupted within themselves.
Yeah.
This is about an uprising within people, not about looking for a saviour to come in, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in America or anywhere in the world. We've created this situation again and again, and it doesn't take much to go through history to realise this situation's not new. It's just a different set of scenery. So until we actually get down to a state of what I believe personal governance, where we have appointed public servants that are there to elevate what it is that the people want, we as individuals, we become so absent to making decisions. We become so absent to how to actually discern what a truth is in our own life, that we've allowed that to be outsourced in such a significant way that we haven't asked deeper questions. And we've allowed ourselves to be, I think in Melbourne, there's we're so controlled and manipulated by things like money, that people that at this stage that haven't lost their jobs, that are not so affected when it comes to their finances, are not really asking deeper questions, are not prepared to let go of, and I suppose put themselves on the line to create a change for a greater future beyond here, not just a temporary difference.
That's yeah, that's really insightful, Jason. I was just reading some of the comments, and someone said, I'm a Melbourne girl, we're not just sitting back in acceptance. Unless you're here in the city, you really don't know what's going on. So my response to that is that no, we're not in Melbourne. And but you know, there's a lot of intel that's coming out at the moment, which is talking about the tunnel system in Melbourne. Are you familiar with any of that? Do you have any sort of like information about that? Because you know what, I'm getting so many emails at the moment, and the question is like the $50 million question is, what should we do? Because if these deep underground military bases are getting cleaned up in Melbourne, then we need to stay home. We need to do what we're being told, and we need to like abide by the curfew. But if that isn't going on, we all need to rise up and, you know, express the you know, our rights, our liberty. So it's a really difficult one. Have you got any insight on that, Jason?
Yeah, look, I mean, I've heard and seen and been presented with a lot of what is going on in Melbourne, and from people that I would say might be reputable sources, but nothing is confirmed. It's very difficult to say that this is exactly what is going on and this is what's not going on. I really feel it's beyond. As the comment was there, that I don't believe that everyone in Melbourne is just sitting back and taking it. But the thing is that there's a greater population there that is in ground within them to not ask these types of questions and to accept what's going on or what the government may be doing. But I think Melbourne, from my experience, if we were to look into it, it has a very dark veil. There is a lot to Melbourne that I mean, I used to work in the hospitality industry, and there's a lot of, let's just say, organised elements that control a lot of Melbourne, and that's always been the case where people, I suppose, turn a blind eye to what it is that's going. It's known, and I would suggest that there's an element of corruption more so than probably other states in the country.
Right.
But it's a part of the fabric. It's a part of what makes Melbourne what it is. It's got an amazing culture, but I do feel it's not so much about. There's the military bases, there's what the government's doing, there's COVID, there's everything else that's going on in amongst that. And I think that the key issue in all of this, Jen, for me, is beyond what's actually happening outside of us. It's about how individuals, and what my focus has been, is not to get too caught up publicly in the conversation of what's happening and who's done what, but how an individual in their own space, in their own moment, can move beyond their own anxiety, can move beyond their own fear, and be able to instill things in their own life to move beyond these particular reactive creations, because that is what's going to make the difference going forward.
I totally, absolutely agree with you. And what is your top tip for that, for helping people? Because there's a lot of people in Melbourne that are really freaking out right now, and they don't know what's going on, and mental health issues are going through the roof, suicides are going through the roof. What is your tip for people that aren't even on the spiritual path but need to get through this?
Yeah, it's an exceptional question. It's first of all that we have to accept where we are, and for me, until people have a starting point, nothing can be changed. And a big part of this particular point is getting together, I would say, firstly with family, firstly with groups around you, and to come to recognize and accept the enormity of what is going on, to come to recognize the pain that they may be in, the decisions that they've made, but start to have authentic and open conversations about not holding their fear in, not becoming anxious and not trying to put on a brave face, not because their friends are getting out there and wanting to protest it. If they're holding fear, they need to be able to express this, they need to purge it. That is a significant practice that not only should be happening now, these are all the habits that should be created for moving forward into life beyond this. It's not, to me, just a good idea. It's essential in every particular part of life. And those types of conversations where someone can actually bare their heart without feedback to those people around them is significant, because what's happening with a lot of people that I'm observing, and not just within Australia, is they're holding on to the fear. They're not allowing themselves to express it and let it go. There's nothing wrong with being in fear. The problem with being in fear is when we hold on to it, when we maintain it. The very nature of our own ability to be able to grow and to expand into our own life is the irony that for us to actually empower ourselves and grow beyond this situation is we have to move into an unknown space. But the very nature of that is fear. And the thing is, we need to learn how to navigate that unknown space and willingly do that with people around us. So to me, what's most important in this time is honesty. Not about trying to impress someone, not about talking about how awoke I am or what I've heard from what's going on overseas or Nassau and every other element of life that's going on. It's first coming to a place of integration. And to me, it's very interesting, and I've heard a lot of people speaking about what's going on in the history of this, and I've been aware of it for a number of years. But one thing that I've learnt is it doesn't matter how much information and how much I keep up with reliable sources of that information. Nothing is going to change until I become present to where I'm at and what I can actually do to change that. So to me, it's when we start to have those conversations, we start to recognize the significance that we have, and it's that transition of power that at the moment, I believe everything that exists right now seeks our attention. COVID, the fear, the organized nature of manipulation that we are under, and every single thing that exists that is controlling us only exists because of the attention we give it. And it's something that's said in philosophy or in spiritual circles, but it's not practiced. It's not applied at a deep level, because as soon as we start to manage our own attention, and firstly upon ourselves, we start to change the very narrative of what's happening. As soon as we as individuals can move away from the commentary and start to move into creation, which I believe is the real darkness that we avoid, is that ability to actually create. So to me, what's most important in this place is being able to speak honestly, being able to spend time whilst the world is apparently falling apart, is starting to identify and starting to put structure into what we're going to create. I'm not talking about sitting in a place of wishing and hoping. I'm talking about definitive action, that people actually come from a place where they're creating from a place of presence and calm, because I don't believe that in any moment of life that we've faced this, we've been oppressed by this, we will get through it. But it does require people to start standing up, not to continue to maintain their attention upon what I would say is the narrative of what's going on. I think it's important to a degree to understand about everything that's happening, and I think it's amazing what Trump's doing. I think it's amazing. I heard last night that you had Ricardo Bossi on, and it was extremely impressive, and it was encouraging for a place like Australia. And there's nothing is going to change while we keep sitting back waiting for someone else to do it. And to me, that starts in small communities coming together and starting to get clarified on how to move forward beyond here. I mean, look, I keep my awareness. There's an amazing other politician here in Australia, which is bringing the Australian government, is taken to the High Court in the UK for looking for dissolution within the Australian government. Now, they are well down the track, and someone that needs to be exposed more significantly is a guy by the name of Rod Cullerton, who's the salt of the earth here in Australia, and was a senator that was released from Senate, some would say illegally. Now, he was mentioning to me recently that in the last couple of days, that information has been received about the illegality of what is going on in Victoria. And they've been able to, and I understand they're releasing that tomorrow in regards to the Freedom of Information Act, to start to expose that as a truth and expose it to the people so they can actually start to see the illegality of what's going on. But to me, that may empower individuals in this type of information, but it's individuals that are not going to get into that same level of zombie-like complacency that beyond this, that we go back to normality. It's about this particular point, we're in a significant amount of pain. It's about using that pain to create different habits for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely really, really insightful. And we've got Amazon deliveries coming in left, right, and centre. So Liam's constantly having to go to the door.
Jake, I just closed the door on me.
So basically, Liam's got a question for you, Jason.
I just had a real life troll just to add credence to what I'm about to say, and He's stood at the door. We've done so much to help him, and he's a terrible, terrible person. So, and now he's ringing.
Oh no!
So I might have to get this done.
No, don't.
I just closed the door on him. I think what you said was amazing, and I actually wonder if Samantha Bingham is her name, the girl that made that comment that we talked about, and I think she like epitomizes what we're talking about, because you're saying that we need to accept where we are, but oh my god.
We've got interference going on. We've got 3D interference going on, guys. What can you do? So that's a fascinating question where Liam was going. But we're being trolled in real life, in real time. It's happening. So yeah.
I think just to add to that, I suppose, Jen, whilst Liam's gone, is it's such an easy thing for us. We're so driven by entertainment. I mean, we've got these massive stadiums of sport. We've got TV. We've got Netflix, and it's, you know, at the start of this whole thing, everyone was talking about how great it was going to be to sit back and watch Netflix. And the very nature of what people are doing probably now is watching other things like documentaries or understanding or getting a deeper awareness of what's going on in the world. We're so used to looking outside of ourselves for the answer. And this is, you know, for years, it's always been about how to actually navigate our unknown. And I've been saying this for a number of years, and it doesn't sound so sexy when you start talking about Nasara, when you start talking about Q, when you start talking about DUMS and a whole range of other information that's available. But the thing is, we as a race, we as a being, we as a point of existence need to come to a point to recognize our own significance and start to actually learn to navigate that rather than the distractions that are going on around us. And until that becomes, I mean, even in the midst of all of this, we've got something here on tomorrow called Are You OK Day, which is a suicide prevention day. Suicide has been significant throughout, you know, this particular process, but beyond it, but it doesn't get attention. And these are the heightened types of the culture and the society that we live in that looks past that and continues to think someone else will deal with it.
Yeah.
And I had a recent conversation with someone that suicide is one of the simplest things to address. It is not difficult to address, but the problem is, like most things, it probably doesn't create a great return, but the solution to it is extremely simple. But as a condition of the very nature of the life that we're experiencing at the moment is our ability to listen, to understand. You know, if we had families and individuals who were able to listen to other people just to understand them, not to respond to them, things like suicide wouldn't exist. People kill themselves because they don't have the capacity to express themselves authentically. And if someone else was able to not sit there and try to butt into what they should be doing, worried about the way that child looked as part of their family or whether they should be getting better marks, but stopped and actually listened, because the nature of a child and what exists within a child is extreme wisdom. But, you know, if we don't as parents, if we don't as a culture come to understand that, we start to have things like suicide where we overlook them. And to me, I believe that that's a far greater understanding than what's actually going on at the moment, because the very nature of why that doesn't exist is why we are experiencing what we are now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really pertinent that you bring that up, actually, Jason, because I'm in the process of facilitating a training program at the moment called Quantum Time Travel. And half of the course is around training people to really, really listen, and very, very high level counselling skills where we don't try to butt in, or we don't try to fix, and we don't try to change. We get down on that level and we actually listen, and we stand underneath, and we really, really, we just listen, and we validate whatever that person is saying. And I've got like 70 people signed up, and the feedback that I've got is so incredible. And it's really beautiful that you bring it up, because it's really, really up in my consciousness at the moment, and it's such an important life skill. And that's why Spirit has guided me to facilitate this training, because we all deserve that. Every single person just deserves to be heard, and every single one of us has experienced some level of PTSD from incarnating into the matrix fix. And so because of that, we all have some aspect of our child self that is frozen in time and that is very, very traumatized. And the fast track to de-traumatizing is through listening, through getting onto that level, through validating, and through really, really hearing that response of that person. And that is the fast track to clearing that trauma. So
Absolutely.
And we absolutely need to apply this in all of our relationships. And we need to exactly what Jason says. We have one mouth and we have two ears. There's a reason why we have two ears, because we are meant to listen. We are meant to listen more than we speak. And this is what your brothers and sisters deserve. This is what will heal them. This will just make their inner child feel so appreciated and so valued. You know, I've done so much work with the inner child, and I've been working with my own shadow self for the last 20 years, working with my own wounded child for the last 20 years. And almost invariably, when I get triggered and I connect with the shadow aspect of my wounded child, when I connect with her, and the very first thing I say to her is, what do you need from me? And invariably, she will say to me, I just need you to hear me. I don't need you to fix me. I just need to be heard. And I'm like, I'm here. And if we can all apply that to all of our relationships and lose this knee-jerk reaction to try to fix and to find comfortability within that pain, then this is the fast track to how we heal our brothers and sisters. Because essentially we're all like children, you know, and we can transmute these experiences so fast if we are given the right quality of care and attention. So I really hope we can inspire all our listeners to go out there today. And remember, you've got two ears and one mouth. So be extra attentive with your listening skills today.
I think it's particularly difficult to do for some people when it comes to hearing about suicide. So we've had this play out as well. But if you think about it logically, like, it is, technically speaking, nobody's going to do it, but technically speaking, it's actually quite a decent option. You know, if you look at the state of the world, and obviously there's been some horrible force that shouldn't be there, and it is going, we all know it's going. That's why we can actually say this. And because it's so unfair, and we know that regardless of whether it's actually true or not, you have to believe that once you die, you're going to be able to come and have an experience a bit like this. Maybe it's on another planet somewhere. So then why wouldn't you just pop off and go back to the source for a bit and then come back again? But don't do it, obviously. But yeah, you can just hear that without resistance, and that connects back to this little troll in disguise comment that we've got. Like, you could just listen. Like, it was the same thing what Ricardo was saying. I don't know much about Australia, but I've spoken to you and I've spoken to Ricardo, and it's clear that Australia really suffers from apathy. So yeah, even though this Samantha who made this comment, she may be like doing a lot more work on herself than a lot of Australians, and then like she might feel a bit protective, but you just need to like receive it. Just admit the truth that Australia is like the archetypal country for apathy, by the sounds of it. And so just take it on board. You don't need
not to generalise. People get really triggered by generalisations.
I know, and then it'll happen again. They'll probably just said that, but they're just doing it again and again and again. Just cut it off at the source, and then we can start healing the planet.
Absolutely, I think that's there's that resilience at the moment to be able to walk independently. I mean, there's a big call at the moment around the world that we all need to come together. We all need to stand up. And to me, this is part of that whole New Age philosophy that we need to move beyond, the whole idea of moving into the light. There's a lot of false teachings that really need to come to bear, that we need to purge and release around this. And I'd like to explain deeper into what I mean, because there's this very nature that first of all, that we need to come together. The very nature of coming together, where people can't actually organize their own household, where they can't actually come together with their own partner, where they can't come together with their own kids, but they want to come together at a very high level of activity and bring about change across a nation, across a world. The very nature of what we're missing is that we do not have independence and resilience as individuals across this planet. And the very nature of that is we've been told that when we're looking to be independent, we're selfish, that when we're alone, we're lonely and we've got a problem, that we need to be together and be accepted by others, that we need to not be selfish, that we need to focus on doing right and serving others. The very opposite to me is the most true, because it's only through our own independence that it becomes a default position when we become truly independent in ourselves, that community comes together because we embrace a great deep level of self-belief, we engage the entirety of what we are, where we can contribute. But when we are unable to contribute into our own life in a significant way, where we're directing and navigating that, to come together with others is only going to amplify the problem. And it's that type of issue that we need to embrace, a priority of our own being, and recognize we exist not to be the same as anyone else. We exist to be completely different, to be weird, freaky, whatever it may be in our own space. And if we do not embrace that and we start trying to toe the line, fall into line with others, do what's accepted, or become kind and compassionate and generous to others without being able to do that to ourselves, we're doing things that are synthetic. And that to me is the false light. And I want to, this whole notion of light and moving towards light is to come to understand it is the very sin that exists on this world, because to move into the light is to do what we've already done. The light is where we've already been. The light is not where we need to go to. The very nature of our own resilience is being able to go into the darkness and navigate that. And by doing so, we liberate the darkness and it becomes light. We don't focus on the light, we emanate light. And the very nature of people coming together in, sitting around and talking about, to me, words are very powerful. The nature of knowing, to me, is a predication of conversations, not actions. It's understanding that is about when our ability to take action. We can know many things, but when we know many things and we don't actually act them and we're not living them in our own life, we don't understand them. We don't have the capacity to be able to express them authentically, gracefully in our own way, in our own life. And until we start to take responsibility for, as individuals, I've looked at this before from coaching and development circles and moving leaders into a space where they're great conscious examples to others. And what becomes most important is one's ability to be able to approach, understand, and navigate their own significance, to talk into their brilliance. We're also great and capable of talking about the shit we've got going on in our life and the problem and what the government's done and what they did and what happened to me. But the ability to be able to speak into your brilliance and be able to do so openly as if it was a normal conversation without making excuse for yourself is a very denigration of our own spirit and our own capacity as people. So there's this very nature of what we've accepted as learning and teaching throughout our own life. We can't blame that we're in a system where the education system is broken. We are where we are at this moment, and if we continue to keep blaming the past, we're never going to make a change. We're going to keep reacting in a loop of waiting until we're in pain, like now, only to try and create something different. We need to start learning to create because we choose to, not because we're forced to or have to because other people expect it, or because now we see some obvious nature of what's going on and the veil's been lifted. This has been going on forever. The fact that, I look at, 60 years ago, for example, and it's not in my lifetime, but JFK mentioned about this hideous monolithic entity that we needed to fight against and rise against. We're still talking about it. We still have not taken responsibility. And as a people, we need to not look at making judgment upon others, but accepting the entirety, not the blame, but the responsibility in the order to change that. Because if we don't do that, we're going to be doing and talking about the same thing again and again, and we're going to become more manipulated with less capacity to be able to do something with less freedoms. It's not until we start to draw back. Let me just say that the only reason that an organized entity exists to the degree that it does is the energy that we give it. We hold such a small percentage, a splinter of what we are. And to me, we need to stop teaching people my experience and what I've done and what's helped me. That's created gurus like Anthony Robbins and it's awoken a lot of people, but the very nature of empowerment to individuals is their ability to be able to do things beyond the teacher. And that's where we as individuals need to hold the teachers of this world accountable, because we want to discover a greater understanding within ourselves rather than just fix a problem.
That's well said, Jason. So I'm just wondering, in a nutshell, what is your overall message to your Australian brothers and sisters?
For me, it's humility. It's accepting, first of all, that I don't know. The amount of opinion, that there's no benefit to be providing further opinions. It's about, first of all, starting as an adult someone who's become adulted in life rather than someone who's present to life, as an example in life. But as an individual, to start to recognize that I don't know, to recognize the only time that I learn, the only time that I grow from here is to accept the starting point that I don't know what's next, and to start to continue to maintain themselves in the question, to not accept what other people are telling them, but to discover that for themselves, because this is a type of example that's required beyond this particular experience. To me, this is all about an individual's capacity to be able to move deliberately into their own creation. And I know that those words can be something that's aspired with working through or learning or spiritually embrace. But this is the very nature that we've become so disconnected with the entity within us. We've become so caught up in our physical state and our physical senses that we don't know how to move beyond that. So for me, it's about, yes, be informed. The news has moved off the mainstream and it's moved onto YouTube, and we're learning a lot from it. But don't fall into the same trap where we're sitting there waiting for the news to be told by others what to do. It's about taking a level of activity of how I am actually creating change each day, coming together with other people, starting to move forward in a direction, not blaming the government, the police, but to recognize the very nature of what they are, to start to understand your own sovereignty and common law, because the very nature of that is coming into your own empowerment. And if individuals in Australia are so absent to the very nature of the Constitution, and the Constitution itself has been ignored and overrun in this country, that we are so far separated from it and living in an illegal state with a government that has no basis for what they stand upon. And we continue to keep sucking it up and continue to keep taking it, as long as we're getting our weekly job keeper and money that's keeping us supported and sustained each week, and thinking of how nice it is to be provided with income, but not realizing what it is that we're acquiescing and letting go of in our own life. So for me, this is all about an individual. It's about independence and about people coming to stand in their own truth.
Absolutely, Jason. And so we're just having a little peruse through the comments, and I just want to just say that, there are definitely within my community, there are some very, very, very powerful awakened Aussie brothers and sisters. And, and I think there's, that has to be acknowledged. There are some Aussies, and my friend Fiona, and she's like, we are doing massive, massive work in probably like the darkest place on earth at the moment, so credit where credit's due. And I just really, really want to send a massive shout out to all the Aussie light workers. Like, we feel you, we see you, like you are doing so amazingly, and keep doing what you're doing. You are so appreciated. You signed up for a big, big mission, because obviously, like, the way I see Australia, like there is this kind of like land of plenty, and there has been this quite high quality of living, which does create comfort. Like, why would you question the government if you're living in a really beautiful big house with a nice pool and you've got a decent income and you're eating organic food? Why would you bother questioning the narrative? So there has been an element of that, like, compared to people in England, like the quality of living in Australia is a lot better. You can argue with that or not, but it's true. The quality of living is a lot better in Australia, and that that has done something to the psyche. Now, that doesn't necessarily apply to people living in high-rise buildings in Melbourne. That's terrible. That's really, really hardcore, you know. But I want to send a big, massive shout out to all the Aussie brothers and sisters that have woke up and that are connecting with the indigenous wisdom of the land and all the song lines, and are the indigenous returned. Like, I know that I am, like, you know, I carry red blood, but in this lifetime I signed up to be a white woman because I felt that was going to work for my purpose. It's the same with loads and loads of star seeds, awakened star seeds. Like, you all are carriers of that indigenous template, that indigenous blood, and we've chosen these incarnations so that, you know, for whatever reason, it's very complex why we've chosen these particular incarnations. But please don't ever think that everyone's just assuming that all Australians are apathetic. That's just not, that is simply not true. You know, it's just, we're talking generally about the consciousness of all countries have got different kind of like sort of like collective consciousness or collective grids, and we're just speaking about that generally. But you know what, you're all doing, I'm so proud of you all, and keep red pilling, keep doing what you're doing, Aussie brothers and sisters. We really, really love you. And do you know what I feel like this COVID has brought us all together. It's like brought the world together, because like the governments are working as this sort of new world order, one world government, and so they're all getting the same kind of like remits, and so we're all having to support each other and cope with this sort of like tyranny that is trying to be imposed upon us. But I actually think it's brought the world together, and I've never felt so connected to my Aussie brothers and sisters as I have through COVID. So great, like it has done some good. Like, it has brought us all together, and it has woken a shit ton of people up. Like, lest us not forget. Do you know what I mean, Jason?
Absolutely, and I think it's not by mistake it's happening in Australia, because there is some significantly powerful people, and they are arising. I mean, that's why the conversation here is being centered around Australia, because I mean, it's the same within government. It's been corrupted because it's so powerful, and it's why Australia's been corrupted, because there is significant power within the land, within the people. Yeah, there's no doubt of that. And I think the very nature for all of us, it's not to take offence. It's to speak into, at times, places that are uncomfortable, that you know, often for niceties we ignore. There's no doubt people in their own space that know what they're doing and moving forward in that particular space embrace that and accept that. But there's nothing here about pulling anyone down. It's about activating a whole range of people that can move into a greater space at any particular moment in their own life. I think Australia is, you know, it's not playing the role that it's playing by mistake at the moment. There's amazing people, and listening to the conversation last night, listening and being exposed more to politics over recent times, which has never been an interest of mine. It's amazed me at the deep level of what people are truly doing to really, the honour that they hold for this country, all from different walks of life that are looking to elevate this beyond the mire that has been there. I mean, we're talking about some very significant leadership that's going to come out of Australia that's going to have an impact on the world beyond this.
Absolutely. And can I just say, guys, please can you share this video? There are such important codes being expressed in this video that people in your communities will benefit from this. It will inspire them, it will enlighten them, it will raise their vibration. Like, we all know that the hot topic for everyone at the moment is Melbourne, Australia. What is going on with our brothers and sisters in Melbourne? And so we need to get this video out as far and wide as possible. So please share this video, brothers and sisters. Or even better, start a watch party. That's the best thing to do. So that's brilliant. Did you want to say something, Liam?
Yeah, thanks for the comments, guys. I actually am very impressed, because I know lots of you have been watching for a while, and I've been very quiet, and I say controversial things, and I said it, and the comments are great. And I think the guy to go to learn more about, if anybody was triggered a little bit about the suicide comment, then go and check out Alan Watts. He makes it sound so beautiful.
Well, I'll say something about suicide. What I've been shown about suicide is that if you are really, 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 really depressed and you choose to end your life, then when you go to the afterlife, there will be a little bit of a relief, but there's a similar energetic vibration that because you haven't completed your cycle within this lifetime. And so the soul's need is to complete its evolutionary journey. And so if you commit suicide, then you cut that completion journey. So when you return home to spirit, you're faced with the fact that you cut that completion journey, and you can't actually evolve unless you complete that completion journey. So you just set up another life and boom shakalaka, you get yourself in there with the same issues. Thank you very much. So I don't think it's a very good idea. I think it's a waste of time. You're wasting cosmic time. But the thing is, fair enough, if some people are so...
It's a terrible idea.
It's a terrible idea.
Obviously. We all know that.
Yeah. So that's my opinion. Like, it's not recommended on a spiritual level, because it's just you're just holding your evolution up. And the whole point is you know, we're all on this path of mastery ascension. Why do you want to hold it up? We want to you know, encourage the acceleration of our ascension, not try to, like, you know, stifle it by silly things like suicide. You know, that's my opinion anyway.
It's a bit like the macrocosmic version of having a drink, so you get some relief in the meantime. So, like, you know, you could argue that having a drink is a good idea, because then it helps you forget, and it kind of makes things a little bit easier. But obviously, it's fucking stupid. So don't do it.
Pardon swearing.
Yeah, it's I was going to say, one of the things with suicide that I and it is a topic that's challenging to talk into, but one of the worst things that we can have is if we're ever having thoughts of that we don't want to be here, that we want to end our life, that our life is terrible, that we only act those particular thoughts out when we don't express them, when we hold them in. And the very nature of the inability to be able to express to someone else that, hey, I'm thinking that this is what I want to do, is what actually elevates and allows ourselves to move through that. It's the empowerment to have that type of conversation, and to be able to recognize in our life someone who's able to actually listen to that is what enriches our life. And it's, we've all been through deeper parts of our relationship, that the deeper the relationship we have with someone else is those that have seen the deeper parts and the most exposed elements of what we are. And it's in society that a lot of that fabric of a relationship is not existent these days, because we've been caught up in some 70s and 80s and 90s type idea of being positive and trying to speak in a way that is joyful, rather than also being allowing the contrast and the truth to come out in a very sacred and powerful way. And it's all those things within our own selves that are unexpressed end up becoming the shit that we're dealing with at the moment. It's all the stuff that we've ignored, that we've looked to the side, that we are confronted by in this very life at the moment, that we have to walk through. The nature of COVID, the nature of control, the nature of corruption, censorship, it's all the shit that we've been doing to ourselves internally. And the very nature of this is not an awakening of people, it's an awakening of an individual as an example to others, to be able to, like a domino, allow that to continue to happen. Not, to me, it's most important in the actions that we take and the example we provide, because that's how we as individuals take on all this information. It's how we learn, it's how we energetically transmit and work with our own frequency to evolve. And everything that we don't express determines our inability to be free. We are free because we say we are. Everything that we hold in that we are guilty and shameful of is the disease that exists within us. It's our inability to express that continues to maintain it. Whether you're pissed off with someone, whether you don't like what someone said, let it out.
Oh, brother. Very well said.
Yeah, definitely. So we've been going about an hour now, Jason. We're gonna wrap it up. Can you just let people know how they can find you? I mean, we will add all your contact details, but how's the best way for people to find you?
At this stage, probably the easiest way and the simplest way is through Facebook at the Quantum Movement. Mm-hmm. There is one thing I just remembered. We did a grounding process, a meditation of sorts before the national protests that were set for Australia last week, and we had great response. So we're going to start doing that. We're doing another one of those. We said we'd follow up this coming Saturday. That's welcome to everyone and available to everyone to be a part of.
Oh yeah.
And we're looking to do that from the Monday onwards each day, because it's a whole process of reclamation of an individual's integrity and expression within their own selves to reclaim their own frequency signature where they've given that away. So it's a process. It's simple. It's powerful, and it's something we're going to share and contribute to people in a way through our own site to share that and allow people to benefit that in whichever way and however that they choose to. So that's something I'd like to share and welcome anyone and everyone to.
That's really great. So we'll post all those links. So you can just send me all your links, and because I'm sure so many of our listeners are going to want to connect in with your work, because the comments are absolutely amazing, and people have really, really loved hearing from you and meeting you, Jason. So that's really, really wonderful. And before we close up, I just want to take this opportunity to let everyone know that in a few hours' time, myself and Liam will be hosting the 9/9 completion ceremony, and we're going to be working with the higher self of the first responders, the ones that are actually going into the tunnels, rescuing the children, the doctors and nurses that are having to face sites and you know, situations that they never ever imagined that they would have to ever experience. And so it's very, very important that all these first responders know that as a collective consciousness, we are all massively supporting them, and there is an angelic force that is supporting all the first responders. It is so important that we come together for this. Also in the 9/9 transmission, we're going to be working with polishing up the pineal gland. The pineal gland has been very, very targeted at the moment. And so we're going to do a very, very deep Arcturian cleansing of the pineal gland. We're also going to be working with the collective pineal gland. And this is actually connected. I know it sounds a bit radical, but this is connected to HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, how to say it? Hydroxychloroquine, and this is definitely connected to the cleansing of the collective pineal gland and the cleansing of the chemtrails. So we're going to be working with these energies. So I'll post all the links to book onto the 9/9 ceremony, but the more brothers and sisters we can get there, the better. So we've absolutely loved having you on our show, Jason. We'd love to have you back. So any final messages or final comments for everyone?
Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for providing the space and creating the space, and what you guys are doing is phenomenal. It's yeah, I'm very honoured and humbled to be here and sharing the space with you. Yeah, look, anything I can do to support. I mean, for me, it's about, as I was saying before, about humility and not putting so much pressure on ourselves individually to understand or to recognize what's going on, but to be patient enough to be able to find a space within our own selves to come to ease each and every day. To me, that's one of the most critical parts of how do I move past this? How do I move through this? And to move ourselves outside of this commentary to start to take some pretty effective affirmative action to start to understand and get behind some real leaders in your country, especially in Australia. I would suggest what I saw and introduced to Ricardo Bossio again, to what he had to say, Rod Cullerton and the Great Australian Party. Those two people, if they got together, in my eyes, would it's an interesting thing with politics. Everyone's got their own party, but it's getting people together and starting to look at how we can create something significant. Because look, what's opposing us, what's in control or has been in control, is just more organised. And the fact is, and what I know, that energy will always seek greatest organisation and highest expression. And the thing is, the very nature, we've been controlled by something that is extremely organised, not over a couple of years, but over millennia. And we need to come to a particular point of understanding and respecting that in order to recognise to what degree that we need to lift up within ourselves to be able to meet and move beyond that. Not hoping and wishing, and that those days to me are gone. It's about deliberate action from a state of understanding within our own selves.
That's really beautiful, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I feel the same. I feel like zero fear whatsoever. And it looks like Nick Kurz, who made a very good comment, feels the same as well. He was saying not to be intimidated by the police because they literally can't do anything. And any situation where maybe some innocent, seemingly innocent person gets taken, that's just because they've not shone the light on the darkness with what you were talking about before, where they've not been able to express this seemingly really controversial thing, and you're really supposed to believe that the police have that power to be able to do that. They can't.
Do you mean as a way of activating them?
Do you mean as a way of activating them?
Like that someone being arrested like that who's who seems to be innocent. It's about
realize,
I
and they don't even get punished that badly, and that's how they learn. They see that.
I do question how many of those are false flags, though, myself.
Mm-hmm.
Those
well, it was interesting.
very public arrests that are just making everyone, like, you know, that they are waking people up. They really, really are. So I would say that some of those are white hat led false flags in order to expose the tyranny, to make people rise and say, no more, we are sovereign. Thank you very much.
Yeah, like they were immaculately timed, weren't they? And suddenly they're not there again as the protests have now gone. We don't see any of it, but it's
same actors as well, similar actors. I mean, so anyway, so we don't know that. That's just my intuitive thought. So
both.
It's always both, isn't it? So Fiona said, please, Jen, can you send some really good energy for the Melbourne brothers and sisters in the 9/9 transmission? Definitely, will do. I think we're going to actually focus the activation tonight in Uluru. So we're going to be working with all the Indigenous elders of Uluru and the Arcturians. So we'll be working a lot. Yeah, Uluru. So we'll be working a lot with the energy of Australia and sending those frequencies to assist our Australian brothers and sisters to wake the F up.
Beautiful.
That was nearly a swear, Jen.
That was nearly a swear, but it wasn't. All right, guys. Well, Jason, thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Please share this video, guys. It's only been shared 14 times. We can do much better than that. We can do much better than that. Please share this video. Very, very important that this message gets out, because so many Aussies are freaking out, and Jason is such an amazing ocean of calm sanity in the situation in Australia, and he, like, loads and loads of brothers and sisters will connect with him. So please share this video. All right, guys, so I'm just going to stop.
Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you, Liam.
Just bear with us while I just stop the recording.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. We love you. Thank you for sharing.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.